Have you ever felt like life was testing you way beyond your limit? Like the whole universe went silent while you were screaming inside? Maybe that's exactly where you are right now. Trying to understand why everything seems to fall apart, one thing after another. Trying to hold on to faith, but your heart's tired of fighting. If that hits home for you, take a deep breath. Today I want to tell you a story. One of those that hits deep. A story that might help you see your pain through a different lens. Because sometimes all we really need is a reminder. The light comes back. It always comes back. This story will show you that even when everything feels lost, life is just building your strength. And when you least expect it, you rise again. Stick with me till the end, because this story might be exactly what your heart needed to hear today. It was a cloudy Monday, one of those days when the sky reflects exactly how you feel inside. John woke up with a heavy chest. The days were going by, but inside, it felt like everything was stuck. He was just an ordinary man, hardworking, full of faith. But over the last few months, it felt like everything had collapsed all at once. He lost his job. His wife, worn out by the struggle, left with the kids. And his faith, the one thing that had always been his anchor, now felt so far away. John kept trying to hold his head high. Every day he'd tell himself, "This will pass. God is with me." But deep down the question echoed, "Why me? Why now?" He walked the streets like a ghost, hiding the pain behind empty, faint smiles. Everyone else seemed to have a path, a direction. And him, he just wanted a sign. Anything. A little sign from above that reminded him he wasn't alone in that desert. John wasn't faithless. He was just a wounded man. Tired of being strong all the time. Tired of hearing the same cliches. Tired of fighting a silent battle no one could see. That night, sitting alone on a bench, eyes watery, he looked up at the cloudy sky and whispered, "If you're still out there, please show me. Show me this all means something." Nothing happened. No beam of light. No voice. No sign. Just silence. But it was right there, in that very moment, that something invisible started to shift. Not in the sky, but inside him. Life was testing John. But little did he know, it was the beginning of something so much bigger. The days that followed were still silent. John got up, breathed, but didn't live. He wandered through the streets like he carried the weight of the world. His body was there, but his soul felt lost. He began avoiding friends. His family tried to help, but nothing made sense anymore. He didn't want advice. Didn't want to hear, "This too shall pass," one more time. He just wanted to feel like God still saw him. One afternoon, he sat on the sidewalk in front of a church. Not to pray, just to remember what it felt like when he still believed. He thought about those childhood Sundays, full of hope, eyes closed, whispering, "I trust in you." But now, the words felt empty. The pain was so deep, he couldn't even cry anymore. And on that day, standing in front of closed doors and a shattered faith, John said something he never thought he would. "If God exists, He forgot about me." It wasn't a cry. It was a tired whisper, almost a surrender. But right then he hit rock bottom. That point where even hope feels like a pretty lie. Maybe you've felt something like that. Or maybe you're in it right now. That moment when you wonder if it's still worth trying. When everything inside you screams for a way out, but the world answers with silence. That's the point where many give up. Where many surrender to the pain and go numb inside. But what John didn't know is that the breaking point is also where the soul begins to rebuild. 'Cause sometimes, it's when we're on the ground that we hear the clearest. It's in the fall that we find the invisible hands that never really let go. That same night, John went home like always. No answers, no signs, just the emptiness and the shadow of a faith that once was. But something was different that night. He woke up in the middle of the night. Didn't know why. He looked at the ceiling, and there was no more anger, just silence. But a different kind. He didn't hear a voice, didn't have a vision, but he felt something. Peace. Soft, subtle, but real. Like someone invisible had sat beside him and just was there. That night, John didn't ask for anything, didn't pray, didn't beg. He just stayed quiet. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like that was enough. That's when he realized God had never left. He was just waiting for John to stop fighting everything and finally trust. Hope didn't show up in a miracle. Came with a breath, with a quiet nudge to the soul, with the sense that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The next day, John did something different. He got up, made his bed, and opened the window. The sky was still cloudy, but something inside him had cleared. He walked back to that same bench in the park, not to ask for anything, but to say thank you. Not for a blessing he'd received, but for a faith that was being rebuilt, small but alive. And right there as he sat, an older woman walked by, stopped and smiled. Without a word, she handed him a small note. John opened it, and it read, "God hasn't forgotten you. He's just preparing you." John smiled, for the first time in months. A real smile. It was just a note, but for him, it was the answer. Not a miracle, but a presence. Steady, silent, loving. That night changed everything. Not because the world changed, but because, for the first time, he changed inside. From that day on, John started to shift. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. But it was real. His life wasn't suddenly fixed. The problems were still there. But something in him had awakened. John made a promise to do one small thing every day. Just one step at a time. He started walking again in the mornings like he used to years ago. He went back to writing little gratitude notes in an old notebook. Simple things like, "Today I got up. Today I saw the sunlight through the window. Today I felt peace listening to the wind." The faith that once felt gone started to grow again. Not in a flash, but like a flame rekindling, slow and steady. With time, doors began to open. Not magically, but as a result of his new mindset. A new posture. John began to see the beauty in small things. And that changed everything. People around him noticed. He spoke differently. That light in his eyes had returned. And without even realizing it, he became a light for others still stuck in the dark. John learned something a lot of people take a long time to understand. Sometimes, God doesn't change what's around you. He changes you from the inside out. And it's that inner change that transforms everything else. He realized life's tests aren't punishments. They're invitations. Sacred calls to reconnect with the deepest part of ourselves. John wasn't the same anymore. Pain shaped him. Faith rebuilt him. And hope led him somewhere new. Back to himself. To where his strength had always been. Maybe, in some way, you're John in this story. Maybe you're in a moment where everything feels like it's falling apart. Maybe your faith is hanging by a thread. Your hope almost gone. And your strength left a long time ago. But if there's one thing I hope you take from this video, it's this. Sometimes life really does test us beyond what feels bearable. But it's not to break us. It's to reveal us. To remind you of the power you carry inside. You're not weak for feeling pain. You're not less spiritual for having doubts. And you're not far from God just because you're tired. In fact, it's often in your silence that He does the deepest work. Maybe today you don't see a way out. But if you can, just take a deep breath right now. Feel it. This moment. This pause. This video. None of this is random. Maybe this is your answer. Note. That whisper from the universe saying, "I'm still here with you. Hold on. This too shall pass." If this story touched your heart, drop one word in the comments that captures what you're feeling right now. Sometimes what you write is exactly what someone else needs to read. And remember, when the pain feels bigger than everything, come back here. This story will be waiting for you. Life will keep testing you. But maybe now, you'll see those tests differently. Because pain, when understood, transforms. And you are waking up. If this story spoke to your soul, share it with someone who also needs a spark of hope. You might be the note someone's been waiting for. And if you feel like this journey is for you, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Here you'll find more stories like this. Messages that don't just touch, they transform. Because sometimes all we really need is to remember the light you're searching for has always been inside you.